Violent crime is on the rise in the U.S. A Council on Criminal Justice report shows homicides rose 5% in 2021. That's up 44% from just 2 years prior. And gun assaults were up by 8% in 2021. For more on this, I want to bring in Thomas Abt. He is a senior fellow at the Council on Criminal Justice. He is also the author of the book Bleeding Out: The Devastating Consequences of Urban Violence and a Bold New Plan for Peace in the Streets. Thomas, thank you so much for being with us. So what are some possible factors in the rise in gun violence and homicides in the past couple of years?
It's a great question. Crime trends are hard to understand, but broadly speaking, there's three explanations that the experts seem to agree on. The first is the pandemic, which has put those individuals who are at the highest risk for gun violence under enormous pressure, more pressure and strain that they were under before. The pandemic has also stressed and put pressure on the institutions that are responsible for responding to violence, such as police, EMS, hospitals, and also community-based programs that seek to intervene with high-risk individuals. Second is the social unrest that followed the brutal murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. There was a significant spike in homicides after that continued throughout the summer. And broadly speaking, incidents like that have driven a wedge between police and the communities they serve, causing crime to go up. And finally, guns. There was a significant surge in legal firearm purchases that began in the beginning of the pandemic and continued throughout. And unfortunately, what we've seen from some new ATF data is that a portion of those legal gun purchases found their way into the hands of criminals at a higher rate than they have in the past.
And where is this happening, Thomas? Is the recent uptick in crime limited to big cities, or is it impacting smaller cities and rural areas as well?
It's happening everywhere, but the biggest impact is in our cities, large, mid-size, and small.
So what are some tested and proven tactics that police can use to combat this most recent surge?
Sure, there are some evidence-based strategies that we know can work to reduce crime. On the police side, they involve using targeted crime control tactics in the places where crime concentrates, often known as hotspots, and among the people who are disproportionately committing the crimes. So the key thing is targeting. In addition, you need to supplement your police strategies with community-based approaches to engage those people, to give them something to say yes to, as well as to say no to.
Well, what would you say are some common mistakes that police departments can sometimes make in efforts to reduce crime?
Well, a good example is New York City. New York City had significant success with these place-based approaches, but then sort of went too far and started policing indiscriminately in these locations, and that led to the stop and frisk controversy under the Bloomberg administration. They scaled that back significantly. They switched to something called precision policing, which is focusing on the people and places that are disproportionately driving the gun violence, and they've had more success since then.
So, of course, policing is just one aspect of what we're talking about. What role does the judicial system play in reducing crime?
You know, it's less clear, the role of the judicial system. We don't have as much research on that. And as a result, it's hard to know. Recent bail reforms have been much criticized by many in law enforcement, but we've seen crime go up in jurisdictions that did bail reform and in jurisdictions that didn't. So hard to say. One thing we do know is that criminals tend to respond much more quickly to swift and certain punishments rather than punishments that are necessarily severe. So the key thing is to increase the certainty that they'll get caught.
All right, well, it's certainly something we're seeing, as we mentioned, across the country. Thomas Abt. Thomas, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.